Is it 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock, we'll bring the meeting to order and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First thing is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone want to make a motion for that?
I'll move.
Second.
Motion made by Lynn, seconded by Ed. Agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ed, seconded by
Amy.
Amy. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have our first petition, docket number BOA 1218-2501, to consider the petition of Todd and Sheila Waymiller and Mike and Marilyn Kenhammer, the petitioners who seek a variance regarding the following: to allow a new dwelling established on a Class 2 soil type instead of the required Class 4 through Class 8 soil types pursuant to Chapter 10.4.7-6 of the Winona County zoning ordinance, and additionally seeking relief from the requirements of the Winona County zoning ordinance, Chapter 11.3.7, number 6, pertaining to the square structure setback standard from the ordinary high water level as depicted in table 11.8 in order to allow a 65-foot setback from the OHWL instead of the required 100 feet for a pre-existing structure. And there is a new amended finding of fact on there. Eric.
Good afternoon, Board of Adjustment. No, that was a lengthy introduction there by your chair. But I think as a matter of procedure, it's important to note that there is two variance requests. If for some reason the dialogue or the discussion went one way or another, there could potentially be two separate motions and actions because of the nature that there is two separate variance requests that are associated with this. Maybe a point of order, you have in front of you a very recent communication that we received from the Minnesota DNR as a result of a site visit that had just transpired in the last couple of days. So we appreciate the comments from the DNR to respond. And, I guess if you needed time to digest that, please feel free, to take additional time to review that. As mentioned in the intro, this is a variance to request because of, maybe to back up a little bit and give some history or background. This involves a structure that was built in 2021 as an agricultural structure. It had come to the planning staff's attention that the owners wanted to enhance that use that they had for that structure and create an apartment for a family member who would be providing caretaking duties on that property that they have. In evaluating that, the ordinance takes a different approach when there's a dwelling involved, and that's how the prime soils category was evaluated with this. And it also came to our attention that the structure was closer than the required 100-foot setback as indicated on the original permit. So that was a shortcoming that had to be addressed with their plans to move this forward. So that's the two variances, is to allow a dwelling so-called unit on prime soils and to recognize the existing setback that the structure is from the ordinary high water. Okay. It's in section 36 of New Hartford Township, pretty close to the county line in the very southeast part of the county. This particular parcel number is referencing 52 acres. However, there's multiple, I believe at least two parcels, and the total acreage is 180 acres. that's associated with this. Lanes Valley Creek delineated, it's part of the public waters inventory that the DNR has. I believe it's not a designated trout stream. It's a pretty low flow stream. And it essentially shows a 300, this map is depicting that it's a 300-foot buffer on each side of that stream would constitute shoreland overlay regulations that apply. You can see the existing structure that was built, and within that, the applicants wish to enhance that by adding a 24 by 32 dwelling unit with that structure. Next exhibit is showing the soil classification types, and in this case, the class 2 soil encompasses where that structure was constructed. The applicants had done a survey as this proposed plan came forward. They hired, I believe, I guess that's, well, there is an exhibit in your packet there too. I believe it's Tri-State Surveying out of Caledonia. Prepared an elevation survey and showing what the distances were. Just want to comment that they're showing setbacks from the corners, 85 feet, 70 feet, and 85. And I believe the surveyor was indicating that those were distances essentially to the center of the stream. So when we look at the Minnesota shoreland, it's from the ordinary water level. In measuring it on GIS, it appeared the closest point, there's an elbow of that stream, and that we have to go by the closest point, and that's where we arrived at the 65 feet. That would be the minimum distance from the existing structure. This is showing again the shoreland with LiDAR elevations. The purple lines are representing essentially a 2-foot change in elevation. And you can see where the structure is. There's a rather steep embankment that you will see that sits above Lane Valley Creek. In fact, floodplain was one of the usually the paramount concerns, and we'll see some exhibits there how that does. I just want to comment that the site is 18 to 20 feet above the floor of the stream, so it's relatively high. And class 2 soils and the setback 65 instead of 100. These are the floodplain exhibits, and we're trying to depict what the new floodplain data is, and I believe at that point where the structure is, the base flood is about 722. I think that's commented.
Where is the base flood on that diagram? I failed to find.
They use the LiDAR again, that map with the purple lines, but when they model the floodplain, we try to shade, or these are the cross sections of what those individual base floods would be on a particular part of that landscape. And they shade it out to represent this, what the 100-year or the base flood would look like. So that extrapolated onto an aerial, this is what we would see. The structure is outside of the floodplain
So they're
based on
not,
elevation.
so they're okay. You're
Yeah.
saying it's okay, right? Okay,
Yeah.
because on the other one, it looks like, oh, their entire house is covered.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Well, we do still look at the effective map. That's the 1984. And there is a lot of problems with the 1984 map because that was before GIS and LiDAR and elevation data. It was extrapolated onto, I believe, quad maps. And so there's a lot of errors, a lot of old data on the old floodplain maps.
What do those not, they're all 700s, but 700 based on, is that feet? Is it above sea level?
Yeah, that'd
Is
be
it-
based on sea level. Basically a datum set that would set the, whatever the base is. And, like the Mississippi River, it's usually so many feet above sea level. But this you'd have to go back to the flood study to, actually dig into that a little bit
And so
more too.
is this showing whatever high water in history?
Correct. It's accounting for dynamics like feeder, tributaries, elevation. So obviously, a floodplain measurement or a floodplain elevation is going to change on the landscape as it's extrapolated through a valley, something to that nature. Some photos from our site visit just recently this week. The first one on the left showing the entrance. Would like to say that, they have an existing driveway. They worked with New Hartford Township to put in that new access. The applicants will cite some of the things that they've been involved with. There was a new address assignment. If this goes forward, they will need to, I believe their intent is to put a septic system and put a new well in to serve that property. The picture on the right is the building as you approach it, coming in off of the driveway. This would be the side of the building facing the south, and this would indicate where this would be the portion or that corner where the that entryway is, where the intended living quarters would be.
In that little spot?
Well, you enter through there, but it would be
Enter that. That would be the
interior, yeah,
entryway.
it'd be
Okay.
interior. Sounds like the floor, and it's rough finished. It hasn't been finished. There's no, I mean, it's a gravel base now at this point for cold storage. This is looking along the stream side of the building. And the picture on the right is showing the nature of Lanes Valley or Lane Valley Creek. The applicants will point out that this was all kept natural. There was no fill. That was, I think, one of the main concerns of the DNR when we visited. And so this has not been altered, other than the trees have been cleaned up. This is the portion in which riprap had been left to armor it as we get closer to the township road. A couple more shots just showing the nature of the township road. That's looking south along Lanes Valley Road on the left. And the picture on the right is showing the north profile of the township. If you're not aware, going north will take you up to County Road 1 eventually. And either go back towards Nodine or go towards La Crescent. The township was contacted, and they had a meeting on November 13th. Reviewed the plans with the applicant, and they indicated that they had no comments to the proposal. Additional considerations. This is part 1 of the applicant's meetings. Tonight, if this is granted, this will go forward to the Planning Commission for tonight, essentially to allow a new dwelling, conversion of an existing dwelling in the Shoreland District. As I mentioned, since their plans now involve enhanced use as a dwelling unit, there were several chapters or sections of the ordinance now that come into apply that they have to satisfactory address. And that would be.
So with the Shoreline Overlay District, did they not need that when they put up the
Correct.
farm structure?
They did not
Okay.
need that part of it.
So what makes it apply to that? Is
A
it like-
dwelling, so it's the definition of a dwelling use that puts it into a conditional use permit category. It puts
But
it in a
in terms
variance.
of the Shoreland Overlay District, what is it about the rules and regulations in terms of like using it for agricultural versus somebody living there in terms of the structure?
Well,
being-
that ordinance goes back to at least since the late 1980s. And it may even go back even before that into the 70s. But as far as I can safely say that to build a new house in shoreland, whether it's a farm dwelling or a non-farm dwelling of any kind, that action would require a conditional use permit to do
Okay,
that.
so if it was agricultural, it wouldn't necessarily need a variance, but it would need a CUP
Yes.
because it's in that district. Okay. Okay.
That's, yeah, that'd be one way to
Okay.
phrase it too. That'd be accurate. Again, in the staff report and the findings of fact that staff has, we generally support the request with conditions. The comments that I see that you've received from the Minnesota DNR are reiterating the findings of fact, and that would be up to the board's discussion to concur or to have, a difference of that, but that is, it seems to be the primary comment that the DNR has forwarded since there was a shoreland component involved with this one.
So in terms of the existing structure, if they say, since they already have to get a variance for the soils, if they say they just decided to build the structure starting inside the building and then move it, the end of it outside the building to get that 100 feet setback, would that work? Or do they still need it because you found out that this already existing structure does not meet the code?
I think the existing structure, due to the deficient setback, that's an action that we would have had to have
Do
crossed
anything?
that, yeah, we
Okay.
would have had to cross that action. But if they didn't want to convert it to a dwelling, that the other parts of this would be off the table. It would even
Okay.
be part of the discussion.
Eric, I saw something in the materials that at the time of the original construction, it might have been U.S. Department of Agriculture encouraged the applicant to move the building further to the east toward the creek. And then in an effort to minimize the intrusion on the high quality soils, they removed some trees, but didn't disrupt the bank. And in the classic no good deed goes unpunished category, they now find themselves closer to the creek.
Yes, and I think the applicants would be in the best position to speak to that because my understanding is there was windstorms, there was tree damage, and there was construction, the constructor, the builder, contractor involvement. So there's a number of, I think, factors in play to this.
And then I just quickly read the email that came in from the
DNR.
the DNR representative.
Yep.
Here's that the bottom line conclusion is that, in his opinion, the nature of the terrain and the vegetation is such that the water course protection that's been done by the applicant would then be an adequate setback, even though it's 65 feet. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that is. Unfortunately, if you were to measure all the drop in the contours, yes, I could see where you'd come up with 100 feet if you were to take a tape measure, but no, we measure as the crow flies, straight lineal or straight horizontal. So when we got our tools on our computer top that can snap a line, it's it's a very lineal measurement. So yes, because of the amount of vertical, because of the slope, as I mentioned, there's about a 20-foot change in elevation. There would be a little bit of art and science into actually measuring, a project on that. So.
On one of the pictures, it looked like, and maybe I just can't tell from this angle, that there was like some of the agricultural land that was even closer to the creek. Is that accurate to assume? I like below the structure. On that picture, like how are they allowed to, is there any sort of buffer regulation for that creek with the agricultural land or anything? Or is that something that's just,
That this shadowing is probably a buffer.
okay,
I would interpret that this is the line that represents
Okay.
row cropping, and yes, it would be subject to the Bowser or the Board of Water and Soil Resources, and in that there would have to be a 50-foot buffer during that riparian area. You can have perennial grasses, hay fields, but they do not want to see row cropping within 50 feet
okay,
of that
so,
ordinary watermark.
okay, so the crop distance is 50 feet and the building is 100, okay.
Yep. Well, with that, I guess I'll turn it over to your additional.
Thank you. Does any of the petitioners wish to speak on behalf of the variance? And if so, please come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mike Kinhammer, and I built the building and own the property there, and Sheila's my daughter who's going to be taking over the property. But just to, in some of the comments that were made, I guess, for the land as far as the contours and stuff, last summer we had the ASCS office out of New Ulm come down, a lady, and we laid out the whole valley again for contours for runoff or any problems that we're gonna have. And due to the 50 feet that you're talking about, I think she took that into consideration. And if the measurements are made, I think we'll find out that we're in compliance with that because we stayed back along the bank there. This lady told us she was down this morning and looking at it, and I was hoping that all of us could go down and look at what we did as far as restoration of the land for riprap that we put in. I put in 38,000 pounds of 6 to 8 inch aggregate on the bank with a base underneath it to prevent any erosion or whatever on the creek side. And the measurements, I'll take the hit on that. I measured off the corner of the building when we staked it with just a tape measure down to the stream. And the one map that we had on there, I just had that made because I thought I was in compliance. I didn't know. But during the operation, the only inspectors I had down there was a state electrical inspector came in twice and checked things. The lady from the ASS office came in. And she was behind the building on the west side. There's a bank that goes up about 6 feet. And the more we moved it to the west, the more we were going to cut in and cause all kinds of erosion problems. So that's probably where the building got moved. But the structure of the building, I'm a builder, okay? The structure of that building is built far in excess of what a normal pole building would be made. It's a ladder construction. Where normally we build them, we put in a 6-inch uprights. This has got 8-inch. The ladder construction's every 2 feet with 2x8s all the way on the sheet metal. The sheet metal on the building is normally all the builders will use probably like a 28 or 29 gauge material. We got 24 gauge material on the roof and 26 gauge on all the walls. The doors in there are all insulated because I like insulated doors because they're heavier in structure and they hold up a lot better. And for the land itself, we did a lot of work along the stream there with erosion problems. One of the culverts up on the north end was smashed all the way in and full of concrete and mud. Actually, it adjoins Ed's land. And we went in and pulled all that concrete out of that tube, dug it, all the silt out of it. Actually took jacks in there and jacked the tube back up because it was smashed in. And then did riprap work there also. But There's a lot of things that were done in compliance to try and to prevent that stream, but
And then another thing too, just to point out, you know, we want the stream to stay in its natural habitat too, but when we're doing the cleanup there, the bank pretty much
Oh.
down from the shed was all full of old cans and glass and just garbage. And we
Yeah.
cleaned all of that up.
yeah, it was used as a
Dumping
dump for,
pit.
I don't know if it was the whole neighborhood or one individual, but we took washer and dryers and oil stoves and car parts and old machinery. I think we took probably 6, 7 loads of junk out of there and cleaned that whole bank up. And the one gentleman from the DNR yesterday, I didn't notice it, but there's still a radio hanging in the tree there, and he asked, wanted to know what kind of reception I get on the radio. But we hauled all that to the township dump and disposed of it all, and then we reseeded. We put over, I think we're between 500 and 800 pounds of seed on the banks and all the way around the buildings. We seeded and sod it. But I think most of it was done that there was more concern about the tillable soils and cutting up into that hill more than there was of the 100-foot. And I honestly, I hate to play dumb, but I don't remember anybody really saying anything to me about a 100-foot setback. You know, and like I said, we only had one inspection, and that was from the state electrical inspector. We had to trench the wiring and everything in. And then they had to come in and measure all that because there was a problem. Back then, copper prices went through the roof and you couldn't find 4-aught copper for the main thing. So we had to go to a 2-aught aluminum, bigger size to meet the specs. And she came in, it was a lady. I don't know where her office was out of. I think she was out of Winona. And she came in and inspected everything twice. And then when everything was done, she inspected all the other wiring too. So that's basically the only inspections we had, but that building, you know, I had the Amish help me build it, okay? That building is less than a 1/4 inch out of square. You don't hear about that with agricultural buildings, and the workmanship in it was just excellent. So, but if you've got any questions with regards to anything with the building, the land, whatever, I'd be more than welcome to any questions.
Is there another farmstead anywhere on the land?
What's that?
Do you have another farmstead? Like home?
Do
like
I? Yes, I do.
Homestead?
Homestead, I should
Yeah,
say. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
On that land?
Not on that.
Either the 51 or the 180 or?
No,
No.
I got land out by the shrine on South Lacrosse.
Nothing to do with.
Okay,
this.
but
Nothing
not
to
related
do
to
with
it.
over in Minnesota.
Okay, so what was the purpose of building that agricultural shed in the first place?
We've got tractors and lawnmowers and ATVs and stuff stored in there.
So does somebody in your family actively farm it then?
My renter passed away about a month ago. And so I don't know if I can find another renter. We rent out to Tillable. But my grandson is kind of thinking that down the road, he might want to start farming it himself. And I've got the equipment. I just have to move it from my farm and
And we put in
Lacrosse.
some, how many acres of food plots do we put in? We do some planting of, corn and beans for deer.
Okay.
And then we did plant trees down along the creek there too, because we had, right after we were building, we had a terrible windstorm come through and it wiped out half the trees along the creek there. The creek was actually blocked right off. And I cut that tree up and was able to move it out of there. And the township it's still laying along the road up there. And they were supposed to come in and cut that up, but they never did. But we did go back and plant some, and then the farm now is put into a forestry program. I put 143 or 144 acres in. In the farm that I live on now, we planted over 9,000 trees, and we're planning on going in there and planting some more trees and stuff, because it had been heavily logged off before I purchased it. So,
And I thought I saw somewhere, well, I guess you can kind of see a corner. Is there a homestead across the road? Looks like
There's-
a corner, there's buildings or something.
there's houses right across the road to the east, but this property does go on to the other side of the road too. There's like a couple of acres over there. But
Oh.
there's two or three houses over on the east side of the road.
And are they anywhere near as high above the creek as what your building is? Like,
They're above the creek. I don't think they're as high as I am, no. My building off the center floor, we shot it with the transit. I'm 21 feet over the creek. And across the road, Belling's property and that, I would say he's maybe more like 10. There is another house. You can just see it down in the corner there a little bit. That's way down lower, and I don't know, because the beavers started building a dam in there.
Mhm.
We thought it was gonna back up into her house. She was pretty excited about that. So we had to go on and take the dam out, otherwise they kept building and building, and I think it would have flooded her house.
so
But
have you ever seen flooding, as long as you've known the property, that would have affected even the house across the road, much
No,
less your property?
no, actually, John Zardi, who lives up the road's been there like 40 years, I think. He said in the 40 years, he's seen that creek dry up 3 times. So
In
it's,
the summer, when there's a lot of vegetation, you can't even see it in some areas. It's pretty narrow.
at one time I seen some little minnows in there and that was about it. It's not, I don't think it's at the deepest part. I don't think it's 6, 8 inches deep. Up by you, Ed, I don't know how deep it is up there.
A little deeper.
Yeah.
And as long as that has come up, I own 40 acres immediately adjacent to this property that are in cropland. And our main property is further to the north on the east side of Lanes Valley Road.
And you live there?
My wife and I live on the east
east
side of
side,
Lanes
okay.
Valley Road on the 320 acres on that side, and then there's 40 on the west.
So in terms of the description of the request on here, it does say that you wanted somebody to live there to help with operations of the farm. And maintain the property. So is that, you mentioned your son. Is that like a thing that
Yeah, because
he's
we
at
mow,
do or?
we mow several acres, so, he would take care of that for us. Snow plowing, shoveling in the winter, keeping the snow off of the roof. And then, like I said, he does put in some food plots. He's an avid hunter. And then just maintaining the equipment, the tractor, the lawn mowers. And then for security too, right now we have nobody out there, so there isn't much for security. And it's not very useful for us right now because there's no running water or bathroom facilities.
If I could ask a couple clarifications, this would be not an exterior addition, but an exterior. to the
Correct.
existing building.
You won't even, the structure won't.
Won't
Change
change
at
at
all.
all.
Right, the exterior of the structure, the footprint. so
And
to
the
speak.
interior structure is gonna be on the back side of the building away from the creek, so if that's any,
Yeah, it'll be in the southwest
Yeah.
corner.
Oh, got it. Okay,
it'd
thank
probably
you.
be 150 feet away from the creek.
And you do or do not have the 50-foot buffer strips, the length of the stream side that is on your property? I didn't understand that.
Well, the ASCS office came in and Eric who rented the land from me, had them come in and we recontoured the whole 200 and some acres back up into the woods to conform better as far as runoff and stuff like that. They did that last summer and he came in then and re-plowed everything and we changed everything there. But when the ASCS office was in there, I should have brought the paperwork with me. She's from New Elm. Anyway, when they came in, they shot the whole fields and laid them all out with Eric, my renter. And I'm sure they, you know, if you're talking from the top of the hill, but if you're talking from the side of the stream up to the thing, it's well over 50 feet.
Okay. And some things, there was no inspection except by an electrical contractor when the building was planned and set up and worked on.
Right, right. Now, I don't know, you know, in the state of Wisconsin, up until a few years ago, ag buildings in which I have built on my own place, I didn't need a building permit or anything, okay? Now, I don't know what the Minnesota law reads or whatever, but no, I had electrical inspectors out there. Graph Electric wired it. And basically that was about
That
it,
was it.
but
And your building, you indicated it has the heavier, more stable construction,
oh, definitely.
sounded like everything.
Yep, yep.
And you've been cleaning up the trash dump that existed on every old agricultural place. Lucky it wasn't in a sinkhole like ours was. You've been seeding the banks and planting above the banks for erosion control.
Right, right. Todd, my son-in-law, he cleaned, we had trees down all over the place. We cleaned all that up and we reseeded even down along the creek and up. I think we're at about 500 to 800 pounds of seed just in what we put along the creek there and cleaned it up.
And if I remember when I was there, you must have an equip contract for the forestry?
Yes, I do.
Equip? Yeah, and that must be above your tillable on the, what it looked like.
Up on the
trees
hillsides, yeah,
planted up
yes,
there.
that's, I put all that in a forestry program about 3 years ago, I believe. And we're gonna be going into a tree planting and because like I said, it was logged and they did a terrible job. They really destroyed a lot of stuff in there. And so it needs to be replanted. So
Yeah, they usually don't
we're
care. if you
talking
take
to
tree
them
well.
about that. The gentleman from over by Rochester came in and wrote up the forestry plan. And I have that. I've got all the certified engineering drawings for the truss system and everything that's in there. So all of that's been all certified.
Great.
And I far exceeded the per square foot snow load on that building is made a lot stronger.
And I noticed when I was there, where the drip line comes down, you have put in place on the stream side of the building, the south, rock,
Mhm.
big rock,
Yep.
and then timbers to hold that in place the whole length of that part of the
What we
building.
did on all the way around the building, we went out about probably the overhangs like 2 feet and we went out 6 feet. And we put like probably 7, 8 inches of washed rock in there. And then so that when the water runs off the roof, it runs into that. But we went one step further on both ends of the building and in the middle of the building, we dug a trench that's, I'm gonna say 4 to 5 feet deep and maybe 6 feet wide or whatever, and we fill that full of washed rock. So all the water that does come off the building runs into those buffer zones, basically, if you want to call it. And then we've fed them all the way down so that there's no erosion going down to the stream at all.
And you're talking about, what I'm talking about is well, I'm not gonna say the contracting term for it, but the rock,
River rock.
about 3 inches, held in place by timbers.
Right,
That I
right.
saw.
We went around the whole building doing that, but it's more like 6 or 8 inches thick.
You're
river
talking
rock
about
rock.
like the landscaping rock along both long edges of the shed?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Where the drip line comes down, I saw that the drip line ran into that,
Correct.
the landscaping area. Sounds like you're talking about something outside the landscape area that
We-
you put in place?
the drip line you're talking about is one address that I talked about, but outside of that, where the roadway goes back along there on the creek side, we dug down in there so that the water wasn't gonna run over the road. It would sink into those buffers that we put in there, and it absorbs the moisture, so it ain't causing erosion on that steep bank going down to this creek.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. I learned
yeah.
something.
Where is the proposed well and septic? Do you
That's gonna
have-
probably be on, that'll be away from the creek. That'll be probably up on the upper side of the building, where we've got grass growing in there now, probably 20 feet or so. I'm sure I'm probably gonna end up with a mound system. I don't know how the soils are gonna test yet at this point, but we will, and the well has to be so many feet away from the septic. So they'll both go up on the upper end there someplace, or we could put the well in the back here where the transformer is, because most of the plumbing's gonna be on the south end of the building, and then the septic will probably go above there.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone want to make a motion to open the public hearing?
I make the motion to open it to the public.
I'll second it.
Amy made the motion to open, seconded by Lynn. Anybody online or in person that would like to speak? For the second time, if there's anybody that wants to speak on behalf of the petition, they can come on up. All right, well, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Amy makes the motion to close the public hearing, seconded by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We can go ahead and discuss. Anybody have
Sounds,
anything they want to say?
sounds like a O to me. I think they take pretty good care of their creek bank and building's already there. I mean, really, is anything gonna change?
If the creek bank is an issue or a concern, I drive by there all the time and I've seen what it used to look like and I see what it looks like now. The applicant has expressed all the improvements they made to the bank, and their credit, it's probably the most impressive stretch of Lane Valley Creek in the valley. It's put a lot of pressure on people like me to try and do the same thing.
Well, I agree. It does sound, I can tell that they care deeply about how their property is. And that's really wonderful. That's a super relief. I was there today and, I was gonna go yesterday, but there was a lot of snow. Today it was a lot of slush and ice, so maybe that was a bad decision. That's a heck of a road, by the way, Lanes Road. Whoa, okay. But walking along the bank of, above the creek, and you said it's 21 feet from, your measurement
Correct.
approximately of the floor of the building. Okay, I understood that correctly. That is already under a process of erosion. I know you've been planting seed, obviously, and I see some plantings, but there is, it's so steep. There is a lot of bare soil. And so I think if you get any rain, it's going to be really hard to vegetate that. I mean, we live on a farm with some of the same issues, so I kind of understand that. And so that is what I noticed, is that there is currently erosion starting along that bank. It's very steep. It looks very difficult to hold vegetation. And while the stream is small, It is a designated stream. And it does widen as it goes, is that north?
Oh.
South, okay, thank you. As it goes south, it does widen a little bit. And under the conditions of the last 30 years, having a stream running the length of our property, and the number of properties that now use wells and aquifer water and water that comes through the subsoil, the streams fluctuate much more than they used to. So I'm not surprised that that little spring dries up and that pretty soon you're like, you can't even see it when there's a dry summer. And we do have more extreme weather, so yeah, you're gonna see that. But it was somewhat concerning to me. It was concerning to me that that bank is showing erosion. And I walked about a football field past, away from the driveway, along the edge of it looked like probably the tractor had driven along there between the bank, still a high bank, and where the crop ground is. And that continued to look, I was a little nervous to get too close to the edge of the bank. It doesn't look real stable. It is problematical, I believe. So I would just like to make that observation. That was my observation today. Maybe in the middle of the summer, there's no stream and the bank is fully vegetated. But you made the point that you would like to see folks go out there and look at it. And that was my thought as well, to make a really perceptive decision about the situation. And so I would just like to make those points.
Did you see any vegetation? Or did it look like bare ground?
There is bare ground. The length, I'll call it the length, actually it's the height of the bank that goes down to where then there is the small stream and sort of almost looks like a wetland as you keep going away from the building.
Is this to the north or the south of the building?
Help me out.
I think must be.
I'm not sure.
It's towards Nodine,
Toward the driveway or away from there?
away from the driveway,
That's
So-
south.
South of the building.
south of along the building and then south.
Yeah.
So, but there is all that riprap as I approached it along the driveway. There is large riprap, very large riprap and a lot of material that's staying on the bank.
It's heavily vegetated in the summer. I'm sure everything.
And the erosion isn't along where the building is, it's
Yes,
beyond that.
yes.
When we look at that on the map, once where you're talking about, some of that, can I, is it all right if I speak?
Yeah, sure. You want to
Just-
come up?
Say your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Todd Weimler, 1626 Oak, or 1464 Claudia Avenue, La Crescent, Minnesota.
Thanks.
Some of that, what maybe you're talking about was before we did a lot of the work. I know I haven't really, some of that erosion really close to the creek, I haven't touched because I don't know, I mean, I don't want to mess with the creek whatsoever, but everything above it between the shed and before you drop down over that bank, it's all like what Sheila and Mike had talked about. We're really above and beyond to what we've, to try to have it get any worse. I know there's one tree that maybe you're talking about that's been that way for years, and I'm not going to do anything to harm the quality of that tree and I'm not going to fill anything that would cause it to go down towards the creek either. You know what I mean? I don't want to mess with anything there either, but everything away from the creek, we went above and beyond. I felt to maintain the quality, and and it is fall. And if you get out there in the summer, there's a lot of green grass down in there, a lot of weeds, and there's even some buckthorn trees growing down there that I haven't even touched. You know about buckthorn, and because I don't want the bank to erode, that's why I leave them there. So,
So they may have said, but I don't remember, when was it seeded? Like recently or?
yeah, we've been working
Wow.
on it for the last 3 years, 4
Some
years.
of the seed's gonna take a while to come up.
Oh, yes,
because
definitely, yeah,
it's
to really
perennial.
let that get full and everything. And it's kind of a road mix, a DOT road mix is what they call it. I mean, it's got some flowers in it, it's got some color to it, and and some of that's underneath the canopy of the existing trees too. So it's gonna take a while before you really notice it and you get a good, grass growing or weeds growing. So,
All right, thank you.
you bet.
Thanks. Anybody else have anything?
I think
Nothing further
think
from
that-
me.
All
they
right.
should be able to do it.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move that we allow them to do what they want to do as laid out with the conditions.
Lynn made a motion to approve with the conditions. Anybody second?
Second,
It's seconded by Ed. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes, and I will read the board appeal. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel for the petitioner. And with that, I believe we have done all our petitions. Anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn by Amy, seconded by Lynn. All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. And meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
And Merry Christmas.
And Mary.
Merry Christmas.
You handed that gavel.